Hello Internet, Nuclear Moose here. A friend of mine had made a comment about the difference between radiation and contamination, so I'm going to do a really short demonstration to kind of show what the difference means. So for starters, I'm using no salt, which is a potassium-based sodium-free salt, and because it's potassium-based, it has naturally radioactive potassium in it. It's completely safe to handle, it's safe to use in cooking, it's very small amounts, but it is measurable. And what we're going to measure it with is a Ludlum Model 3 with the HP210 tungsten probe. And this is used in some industries for monitoring contamination and stuff like that. It's tungsten shielded, so it's a very heavy probe, weighs about the same amount. Actually, it weighs more than this, and this has batteries in it. So I'm going to start off by turning it on and setting it to 0.1. So what that means is whatever this tells us is counts per minute reading, we're going to multiply that by 0.1. So if it goes up to 1K, we know that that's 100, 2K, 200, and so on in this setting. And what I'm going to do first is I've kind of given my counter a wipe down. We're going to just move this around, make sure we're not picking anything up. I'll even set it up to the fast setting so that we get our readings coming in quicker. So if it were to pick something up, you'd see a spike like we just saw, but it would stay up prolonged if there were any contamination here. And contamination is essentially radioactive particles that are left over. Anything that may emit radiation that's still hanging around, whereas the radiation itself is the energy emitted, kind of like fire. The heat from the fire is in fact the energy. So here we've seen it. There's no noticeable contamination. Everything's within normal limits. I'm going to go ahead and switch this back to slow. And what that's going to do is make the meter go up measurably slowly so that we can see that there is in fact an increase in what it's picking up and not just background noise. So we're going to go ahead and contaminate this area now. Make a big old mess here. And so this would represent our contamination. Somebody whose job it is to measure such things would take a setup similar to this or whatever device their industry uses, and they would measure it. So we're going to put this just over the salt, and we're going to watch the readings. And we can see it's already going up, and this is set to slow again. So we're not going to see those big spikes like that one we saw. We're going to see little spikes, but they're going to be consistent. So this is consistently reading at 200 counts per minute at this time. And I think for potassium, that sounds about right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pretend that we're in this industry. We need to clean this mess up. So I'm going to use a wet hand towel, and I'm going to do just that. I'm going to clean this all up. Try to get as much of this off the counter as I can. Just eyeballing it here. I'm going to set this plate down. I'm going to just make it rain so it's easier to hold on to the camera. Here we go. My wife won't be happy, but it happens. Alrighty, so now what we have is an area that's been decontaminated. I mean, in the camera you can still see there's a speck here and there. But with our readings, we're not going to see consistently up in the range that we saw before of 200 counts per minute. What we're going to see is going to fall into what's called the norm range, which is your regular normal background. Norm is an acronym. I'm not going to go into it right now. But what this is showing us is that we are not having that contamination that we had before. However, now that we've done some cleanup, we have contaminated materials. So this rag itself now has contamination on it. Maybe it doesn't have much. Let's see if I have it upside down. No, I have it right. Potassium is not a strong emitter, and the water probably helps shield it a little bit. But as we can see, it is a little bit higher than it was before we did any of this. And as we give it time, it's picking up, of course. So that's that. Just a quick demonstration about contamination. And yeah, we'll do more of these in the future.